Welcome back to the Real Estate Rundown. Chris and Renee here. If this is your first time joining us, please remember to like, share, and subscribe.
And we have a very, very busy show today, so we're going to dive right into it.
We are.
First topic, this is, I'm sure, a sensitive one, Wall Street landlords. So help me layer a little bit of these data points together, everybody. So there's 49.5 million rental housing units in the U.S. approximately, and nearly 46% of them are small rental properties from 1 to 4 units. So the first thing I want you to get from that is that there's always been corporations involved in housings. Your big apartment complexes, high rises, and that type of stuff, that's accounting for over half of the available inventory for rental housing in the United States. So let's excuse that to the side. That's always been a part of it. But what's interesting here, so of the other than, less than about 25 million rental housing units, 70% are then owned by individuals, which then, and this is a stat by National Association of Realtors, and then of that 70% owned by individuals, 70% of that are managed by the same owners and typically defined as mom and pop landlords. And so as we understand that, that's been very historic, that you have a lot of folks that are investing in real estate in their own community, in single family developments. And, likewise, we could assume that money is going back into that community, right? That landlord is making that money, he's paying local contractors to fix the home, he or she, and then they are, investing their profits back into that community. So what's really interesting here is that we are seeing a lot of headlines on the rise and have for the last year. I mean, I was looking at, and we'll put some of these headlines on the board here on the screen, to where we see even big companies like JP Chase committing $1 billion towards buying single family real estate. And we saw just last week, we're not going to get political with anyone or highlight different figures here, but there was someone on the Democratic ticket was talking about stats of large companies of BlackRock and Vanguard that have, it's kind of via other investment and hedge funds that they manage,
yes.
That they are making a big bid on buying single family housing. Some different sources saying, hey, predictions could be as far as 2030 that 40 to 60% of single family homes could be corporation owned. And so Renee, and where I try and come to a conclusion with this data is that we understand, and I'm going to put it up on the chart, so Cole's going to have it up there, where you can see that we have, by birth rates, generationally, we have the largest next 15 years of birth rates hitting the market that need housing now, because they're now 33 years and older, and we know that millennials are making big decisions later. They were buying houses in the 20s like boomers did, and so we have this massive wave ahead of us still of housing.
Yeah.
And so where I want to come to this is people understanding that Wall Street places bets. They bet on companies that they think are going to grow. They bet on things that think they're going to make them money.
Right.
And they believe that all these folks in the next 15 years are going to need housing, and they're going to profit off of it.
Yeah. So it's only going to get bigger at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And so where, you can decide to, who knows, guys? I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist or anything on this, but it's like you can play the gamble of paying your landlord and maybe seeing landlord ownership even increase in the single family sector and be more stuck, or buy. And so I just think that's very interesting for people to understand. Yes, people are coming to the market and want to buy, but corporations are also not competing. Exactly. We don't see it as much in the Flagstaff community in a broad swipe, but it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely hitting, I think, the larger metropolitan areas more. And we've seen a little bit here in Flagstaff, but it will be interesting to see if that increases over the next 5 years or so.
Absolutely. Segueing from that big picture on things, you had some local market stats.
I do. So it's that time of year where things start to change a little bit. Winter is coming. Seasonality is a thing here in Flagstaff. We start to see buyers pull back, listings pull back as we head into fall and winter. People are more focused on their pumpkin spice lattes than buying a house. And so what's interesting is the seasonality hasn't really been much of a thing over the last couple of years because we had such a booming market pretty much since 2020. The seasonality was not super affected but the market was not super affected by seasonality. So I think we're going to see that a little bit more this year. I think we're already starting to see that a little bit more. Days in market have not drastically changed yet, but I think as we head into October in particular, we'll start to see those numbers change. Demand is key. With the demand that we have, we're just going to keep going at the rate that we are. And if inventory goes down, it does not mean that, things are going to slow down as drastic as they would have in the past. So seasonality, I've had a lot of buyers ask me about it. Are we going to continue to see options hit the market? And you are, just not at the rate that we're seeing them right now.
Oftentimes, and tell me if I'm correct in this, Renee, I love my analogies. So it's called like the winter bargain bin. When you go to the back of the shop and it's like, if you can find something, there's just less there.
Yeah.
There's not all sizes, but if you can find something that fits, or especially as like teenager, like I have things that like didn't quite, like I have like XL sweatshirts that just were not quite there because you're like, this is half off. Like, no, we're not going to see real estate half off. But if you can find something that fits, you may stand a chance for some better negotiation.
I think so. And the thing that we keep driving into, you guys, and not to be repetitive, but right now with the inventory being as low as it is and the buyer demand being what it is, and things may change here when interest rates change, you've got to take advantage of what we're seeing right now. And it's less competitive, and you still might have to write some competitive offers and be pretty strong in your pre-qualifications. But now's the time to do it because it's only going to get harder.
Well, and like you said, Renee, we're in kind of a high point of interest rates right now, but they are going to come down. We do know that this inflation will come down. And so I can't help but wonder if we are maybe in the most opportunistic 6 months that we'll ever see in the next, 20 plus years.
Yeah.
I don't want to be alarmist with that, but what do you think?
I feel very much the same way in that I don't want to scare people into thinking that they need to make a move right now. But I think if you have the ability to make a move right now and you can pull it together and the numbers work and you're comfortable, even if it doesn't change exactly in the next 6 months or so, I really, really do think now is the time, because in 6 months to a year, it's going to be competitive. And with what we're seeing, inventory is still low. Let me say it over and over again. And if rates go down, we'll see more buyers come to the market. Honestly, we're going to have a market that's like 2020 all over again, where it is so competitive that some people just may not be able to play.
Jumping right ahead into our next topic of I want you to look at annual home ownership rates for the United States by age group from 1982 through 2022. Super, super fascinating. And while these kind of look flat-ish, it's pretty wild to think that and that is pretty crazy to think that these are all historically over the last 40 years, that percentage-wise, we haven't made a lot of big gains by any group. They've all stayed fairly close. But what we were noticing when you and I were talking about this is if you look at the last recession just behind us, when interest rate dipped, we saw a spike. There was more home ownership across the board, and actually led to an improved trend for several of these across the board. And so very interesting to think, like, are you going to be a statistic? And, there's so many different things we're talking about. Okay, with bigger shifts in whether it was the dot-com burst or the housing recession, or all these different factors that really impacted these different categories of folks and demographics differently. I just think it's very interesting when people think along those lines of statistics. And I think especially I see a lot of first-time home buyers right now thinking like, I can never buy a home in this market. And thinking like statistically, you're lesser chance, as you get older and earn more money and have more debt, like your home ownership chances increase. But I don't think that is necessarily fair to put yourself into a category.
I agree. I think the point that we really want to hit hard on here is that spike that we saw in the recession.
Yep.
It's because historically real estate markets actually get better when we're in a recession. So it's something to just keep in mind and make a move if you can.
Yep.
Here's a fascinating chart which indicates the cost of homes per state. So relatively speaking, Arizona is not one of the most expensive states that you see on this chart. Flagstaff is among some of the most expensive cities in this state. But if you're looking really closely at this and you're looking at all of the other states that are sitting way up at the top, and you're looking for that mountain lifestyle, Flagstaff is actually, in reality, one of the cheapest places to be able to obtain that. You're 15 minutes from the mountain. You've got everything that you're looking for, that a lot of people are looking for when they're in those top states like Utah and Colorado. So I found that to be really interesting, because I know the repetitive conversation is Flagstaff is just so expensive. It's too expensive, but it's doable. It's still very doable compared to, what were the statistics of the other places?
So that's when we talk about replacement cost, right? Replacement cost is if you just want a home and you want to replace a home 15 minutes from the ski resort with, a home down in the, in the valley. Beautiful. I love the desert.
Yes.
I do find the desert beautiful, but it's not a mountain town.
Right.
Right. That's not a fair equal replacement.
Right.
So when we were looking at saying, okay, along with this chart, what are like Western states that also have ski towns? And, Park City, median home price, 2.1 million. Telluride, 1.8 million. And Aspen, Colorado, I used to think of Dumb and Dumber. Aspen, 3.2 million.
Right. So the median sales price in Flagstaff of $650, we're looking at a drastically more affordable place than most places that people are calling that mountain lifestyle, that living that you can just get outside, do your skiing, do your hiking. And so, yeah, it actually really puts things into perspective with what we have here.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot, not that I think it's just framing, right? Because, we fully acknowledge that it's become a much more expensive town than it has been. But the framing of that on just saying, where is Flagstaff heading and where is it going? And much like, not to tie it all in together, but if we talk about why are big companies and hedge funds wanting to invest in real estate and why are people wanting to pay what they're paying in Flagstaff, is they see it going somewhere.
Exactly. It's most likely you're not going to lose out on the money that you're investing in these markets, in these higher priced homes. It's definitely, there's a reason why multiple people feel like now's the time to make it work. Yeah.
And as you underscored, if the time's right for you, right? You never want to be in a position of financial duress. But I hope we kind of hit that home today, is that, we have hit certain in the last, you've been doing this 8 years? 8 years. 8 years, and I've been doing this 15 years, and there's been certain points where as we're heading into it to say, and especially you and I both are active, not only active in the industry, but active investors, and we love real estate.
Right,
It's a bit of an addiction. I always make the joke of that's, people that are alcoholics don't go to bars just the same way that I don't look on Zillow. I love real estate, and you look at certain moments of like, when is that time where the buy order should have gone in? Because then increases happened. I really will be watching the next 6 months closely. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be very promising. So I hope you found this data helpful. We had just the best intentions of hoping that you can take this information and make the most of it with your real estate decisions. So please forward on to friends. Let us know if you have any specific comments, questions that you'd like us to address next month. And we hope to see you again next month on another episode of The Real Estate Rundown.